Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. Say, there once were 3 moles, and they were burrowing through a tunnel. The first one said, "I smell sugar." The second one said, "I smell cinnamon." The third one said, "I smell molasses." Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Warhammer Quest: Lost Relics from Warhammer. Hello everybody, we'll get back to the review in just a second. I just want to take a moment to ask you to go ahead and check out and subscribe to my other channel, that is Cody Carlson PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history and fun things like that. Please check that out, please subscribe, and now, back to the review. In Warhammer Quest: Lost Relics, 1 to 4 players take on the role of a hero as they attempt to go on an adventure and recover relics and treasure and beat those evil, evil monsters. This game boasts many different scenarios. Players are going to pick a scenario and then set it up using tiles that have various spaces and locations. They have a location number on them, or rather a kind of an occupancy number saying how many heroes and villains can be in a particular space at a time. You're going to each get a player card for each of your heroes. You're going to get the monster cards, and sometimes you're going to have kind of monster leaders, and you're going to get their cards out as well. Now, the game is played over a series of phases. The first phase is the adventure phase. Now, the adventure book, the scenario, will tell you kind of specifically what's going to happen in this phase. Some of the villain cards might as well. This usually involves moving some of your enemies or attacking with them, but that kind of sets up what's going to happen for that round. Next, you have the dice phase. Now, each of your heroes has 3 dice. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll your die for each of your heroes, and then you're going to put your die on your hero card, however it was rolled. Next, you have the initiative phase. Essentially, you have 4 initiative cards for your heroes. You're going to shuffle them. You're going to go ahead then and reveal them one at a time. You're going to put them out in a line, and that line you're going to go from left to right. That's the hero order that they're going to play. Now, next you have the action phase. Now, how the action phase works is when a hero when it's their turn according to the initiative order, they can go ahead and go and take several actions. You know, they can move, they can make melee attacks, they can make ranged attacks, they can interact with objects. But how they do this is they use the die. Now, essentially, you can spend a die to take any one of these actions. But if you can roll a certain number, these die will become enhanced. So essentially, you could do a regular movement action where you just move, a number of spaces or an adjacent space. But you could do an enhanced action if you roll high enough that you could move further. Same thing with attack. You deal so much damage, but if it's an enhanced attack, you can deal more damage. You can actually consult the numbers on your card to tell you whether or not you get an enhanced action with the dice you rolled. Now, there's no real villain phase for most of the villains here. Rather, whenever a hero kind of moves, he's in line of sight, or he attacks something, you get kind of a reaction from your enemies. Essentially, you consult kind of their reaction. If they've got an order, they may attack, then move, then do something else. But you go ahead and you kind of look at those numbers. You figure out exactly what it is that they're going to be doing in reaction to that hero's movements. Now, next you do have a leader phase. Now, I said most of the villains, they kind of move during, they just react during the action phase. But if you have a villain leader on the board, then they can go ahead, they can activate their special abilities, they can make their attacks and do their dastardly deeds at this time. Now, during the action phase, you can take damage. If your enemies hit you, you can take damage tokens, wound tokens, put them on your board. If you take too many, you flip the board over, you're now wounded. If you take too many again, then that hero is essentially out of action. Next, you've got the recovery phase. You can go ahead, if you're next to a haven spot, you can recover some of your damage. You can flip your card back over from wounded to its regular side. Now there's also treasures on the board. You can go ahead and move to one of these locations and draw a treasure card. This is going to give you kind of armor or weapons or artifacts. You can have one card of each. But as soon as you draw a card, you can actually give it to any other player. You don't have to be adjacent to them or near them. You can just give it to any other player. But that is true for all players. They can only have 3, one of each kinds of those cards. Now, sometimes during the course of the game, heroes can earn destiny tokens. If they get a destiny token, then later in the game when they're spending die, they can spend it to automatically flip it to an enhanced number so they can get that enhanced ability. So players are going around and around. They are moving, they are fighting, they are dealing with the reactions of their opponents. They are going to havens to recover, they are going to the treasure spots to gain treasure, and the whole while they are attempting to meet their scenario objectives. Now, if the players collectively are able to complete those objectives, then they win! Warhammer Quest: Lost Relics. So this is another Warhammer boxed game, and for me they're often kind of hit or miss. Like some of the Space Marines adventures I've loved. The Labyrinth of the Necrons, the Doomsday Countdown were really good. Others not so much. I thought they were okay. I don't think I've ever hated any of these games, but some are certainly better than others. This is probably my favorite of the Warhammer Fantasy stuff. Now, I still prefer Warhammer 40K. I like the Warhammer 40K, like I said, the Space Marines Adventures games quite a bit. They're still probably my favorite. But I really like this one. I really like this system where you're spending the die, but you can enhance them, because it's a simple system, but there's still a little bit of meat to it. There's still some choice there, which I like. There's choice in how you spend the die. You may get a really good roll. Do I want to spend it for movement? Do I want to spend it for an attack? How do I want to spend it? So that stuff's pretty interesting. 2, I like the spice and sugar that comes with the various cards in the game that you usually get with games like this. And I really do like the initiative system. Now, like, the initiative in Labyrinth of the Necrons is my favorite, because then you don't know if you're going next or if the Necrons are going next. Here, the enemies don't have their own initiative cards. Again, they just react to you. And that's kind of interesting, and it kind of makes you have to deal with things. You kind of plan for that. Now, I will say, I did like this game. I had fun with it. However, I will say there were a few points where I thought the rules were a little ambiguous. I wasn't quite sure what I had to do. So I've only played this solo a couple of times now, and I enjoyed it both times, but I felt like there were moments that I kind of house rule some little things here and there. So that's a little annoying, but that's a rather minor complaint, because I think this is actually a pretty decent game. So recommendation for the discriminating gamer for Warhammer Quest: Lost Relics is buy it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We'd ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd also ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history and books on history and fun things like that. Please check it out. Please subscribe. We'd also ask you to please give a thumb to this video on Board Game Geek. That helps us out a lot as well. Ladies and gentlemen, once upon a time, there was a king, and he was only 12 inches tall. He was a lousy king, but he made a great ruler. Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
I will only give you that information if the captain decides that self-destruction is the best option.
Captain, it's the best option.